Hello, and welcome to the Outdoorsy Diva podcast. I'm your host, Lauren, the Outdoorsy Diva. Thanks for joining. This episode is brought to you by Discover Martin. Imagine a place where warm waters meet perfect waves, where soft sand beaches play backdrop for sunbathing, swimming, and snapshots, where the great outdoors still feels natural and time isn't the only thing that's preserved. Good news, you don't have to imagine. Discover Martin County and paddle into 2021. Recently, I have checked off another region of Florida that I didn't know much about. I went on a day trip just to the other side of the state on the Atlantic coast to what's known as Martin County, Florida. So where exactly is Martin County? Well, it's nestled somewhere between Orlando, Lake Okeechobee, and Miami. The towns that encompass Martin County are Stuart. You might have heard of Stuart. They're known for having an annual air show that I actually did attend this year, but I didn't spend any time in the town. Then they've also got the nearby communities like Hope Sound, Hutchinson Island, Indian Town, Jensen Beach, Palm City, Port Salerno, Rio, Sewell's Point, and Tequesta. So, fun fact, one of my absolute favorite beaches is actually part of this county, and I had no idea. So I guess when I say I visited a new part of the state for me, that's not entirely true, but I really didn't spend that much time. I've only gone for a specific reason, and this time I got to spend an entire day exploring. So in this episode, I'm going to tell you all about my day trip adventure. I'm going to tell you about my first time sailing on a sailboat in Stuart, Florida. And I'm also going to share what it was like to have a private tour of the Florida Oceanographic Coastal Center, also in Stuart, Florida. Then I'm going to tell you about the beaches and what makes them so unique and why they are some of my favorite beaches ever, and some of the other things that there are to do within Martin County, some of the parks that you should visit, and other things to add to your itinerary when you plan your Martin County, Florida visit. I was really excited to get the invitation from Martin County to come over and check them out. We recently did a partnership actually to do a giveaway. It's the first time I've been able to actually give away a trip. So that was something that was really cool. But as part of that campaign together, I was invited to come over and hang out for the day and check it out for myself. So one of the things that they put on my itinerary was a sailing experience. That's right, an actual sailboat with sails. I know it's gonna sound really basic for people who this is something that you're used to, that you grew up doing, but for me, this was a totally new, unique experience, and it was actually on my bucket list. So this boat is called the Schooner Lily. It's really just a barge, if you will, and it's been outfitted with sails and all the other technical aspects of nautica that I know nothing about. I'm not even going to pretend to you that I know all these different things. I did ask questions aboard and they told me that the sails are actually a scow. Yeah, like cow, but scow. And that's the type of sailboat that this one is. But the name of it is the Schooner Lily. So the boat set sail from actually a city park, which I had never seen a dock at a city park like this before, but apparently that's what happens when you're nestled on and surrounded by water. You have docks at your city parks. So that's where the Schooner Lily takes off from. They offer lots of different times. It depends on the day of the week. They have morning times, afternoon, sunset. But right now, because of the pandemic, they've kind of got a different schedule and they're only scheduling at half capacity to make sure you can safely social distance while you're on board. Now, where does it sail? It doesn't go out into the Atlantic Ocean, and I actually wasn't 100% aware of that before I set out for the adventure. I didn't find out until I got there on the boat. I just said yes, that's typical me. Y'all know how I roll. But Once we got there, they told us we'd be sailing on the St. Lucie River, so it will be calm. There's nothing to worry about. Most people are perfectly fine. You can see land the whole time and you shouldn't get seasick. I don't normally get seasick, so I wasn't too worried about it, but still that was reassuring to know. So once we made way and we got going and we were out on the river, it was such a nice, calm, like stable ride, and it was just really relaxing. At first, there was really no wind to speak of, and then there started to be just a little bit. And so the captain and the first mate let up the sails. I was so enthralled just watching that process. And you've got the bows and they're hoisting things. Y'all hear me trying to use my Pirates of the Caribbean lingo, right? So they were getting us going and getting the sails up. And I just thought it was magnificent. I totally felt like I was on like a ship or something. And it was really cool just to see. The boat does have a motor. It's not completely powered by sails, so they have the option to go back and forth. And if they get enough wind, then they'll cut the motor. And eventually we did. They cut the motor. They just let the sails do their thing and coast us along within the waterway. So it was a really nice, calm experience. It's a great way just to spend a couple of hours on the water, let the wind blow through your hair, put your stunner shades on, and just relax. Now, I'm sure you're wondering, are you allowed to bring food? Absolutely. You're allowed to bring snacks, and you can even bring adult libations if you please. There were a group of friends on the boat as well on our tour, and they had wine and snacks that they brought, and we just brought our lunch on the boat. So it was a really nice, relaxing way to just take in the views. We didn't see any wildlife on our sail, but we had a really cool sighting. We saw a seaplane land on the river. I was like, whoa, I've never seen that before. Like, I've never seen a seaplane even in real life. And then we also saw that same seaplane take off before we had come back in off the water. So that was pretty cool. It's not wildlife, but still a new experience for me. It's really cool. You can go to their website. I'll have the link to the business so that you can take a look at that in the show notes. And special thanks to the captain and first mate of the Schooner Lily for such a great experience. Now, the next thing that was on our agenda was to visit the Florida Oceanographic Coastal Center, which is also in Stuart, Florida, but this one's not on the mainland. It's actually on the island of Hutchinson. So it's a really popular attraction, apparently, when we're not in the pandemic, and it's popular for families, for people to bring kids, for school groups. They're a nonprofit, and their mission is to inspire environmental stewardship of Florida's coastal ecosystems through education, research, and advocacy. And they were so gracious. They're actually closed on the day that we went. They've got different hours right now trying to balance staffing and spacing and all that, due to the times that we're in. But they were like, no, she's going to be in town. We'll open up just for them and we'll give them a private tour. So that was really special. I felt really honored that they were willing to do that for my son and I and give us this private tour. And oh my goodness, I learned so much. This place is definitely not just for kids. It's for the curious. It's for the animal lover. If you love the sea, you love nature, this place is a great option for you to come and visit. They've got 57 acres of marine life nature, outside, indoor programs, exhibits to see, and it's really cool. And I'm not just talking about like an aquarium, because that is not what this is at all. So inside, they've got a really cute gift shop. They've got exhibits, they've got tanks, they got all kinds of really neat things that you can learn about. But outside is the real showstopper piece. Outside, they have this it's basically like an outdoor seawater, saltwater aquarium, essentially, that they've built. Like, it's a lagoon and it's open and it's got this boardwalk and you can walk around so you can see down in it and see all the marine life. They have 10 nurse sharks, and these are not little sharks, y'all. These are like good sized sharks. I was not expecting to look down and see like sharks. I was like, oh my goodness. And it wasn't just one. There were like 6 of them all huddled up together, and they were telling us that they really like to snuggle and bumble together like that. Like that's their thing, and it was actually really, really cute. They also have, there were birds around just because you've got water and you've got lots of fish. They had tons of different types of fish to see. In the tank they had, lagoon, in addition to the sharks, they had sheep's head, tarpon, crevalle jack, and they had all types of other tropical fish that are native to the area. But the piece de resistance was the sea turtles. They have 3 awesome sea turtles, and these guys had been injured and rehabilitated, and now they have found their forever home at Florida Oceanographic. So that's really cool. They've got the best retirement home that money could buy a sea turtle. They're all really cute. They've all got such like personality. It was really funny just standing there watching them, and they're very intelligent. Like they're trained with markers and shapes and colors to know like when it's their time to come out and to eat. They can hear you. Like they know when you're there and you're at the observation deck. So some of them like came out of their little napping time and popped their heads up to say hello. So that was super, super cute. Love learning about these guys, and you can learn about like their stories, what happened to them, where they come from. They really are great marine ambassadors. No, you can't touch them or interact with them, but it's really cool to observe them. And at certain times you can come and you can see when they do the feedings for the turtles. You can see when they do the feedings for the sharks and the other fish. When they do that, they have different times that you can check on the website to see when those are happening. It was also really cool to see that they actually have a nature trail, and this nature trail has 2 tracks. So one track is only like a third of a mile, but if you do the full trail, it's an entire mile long where you can go and explore and really see nature out in the wild. The other really cool thing that they do is they have a lot of restoration projects. So they have a project to restore seagrass, to restore oyster beds, and then they also have a program to restore the mangroves. And so that was really neat to see. They have these big like blue tubs that they're actually using, where they've collected seagrass from the beaches, and then they've brought it and basically they're harvesting it and growing it so that they can then go and put that back out into the ocean to help the seagrass to come back and to recover. Now, one of the really popular parts of the exhibit that's outside is the touch tank area. And I'm sure when the kids are there, they love this, but I loved it just as much. They have a stingray tank, and they've got different types of stingrays that I actually weren't familiar with. There's one called the cow mouth stingray, which is kind of cool. He's really different looking, and they have these like gills at the bottom that come open. So it was neat to see those guys and got to touch them and pet them, and they have such personalities too. And then they also have an invertebrate touch tank. So in these tanks, they've got multiple tanks, and they have things like sea urchins, hermit crabs, horseshoe crabs, fighting conch, and sea cucumbers. So those were all really neat to see and touch and learn about. And as many aquariums as I've been to, I actually did learn something new. So did you know, and perhaps I am the only dummy that didn't know, but did you know that when we see those like conch shells, the animals actually make the shell? I don't think I realized that they made the shell. I don't know. I just thought they moved into the shell. I don't know what I thought this shell was made of, but the animals make the shell, and as the animals grow, the shell grows with them, and it gets bigger and bigger, basically until the animal dies. And then when they abandon the shell, that's when the crabs and everything move in and move into the shell. So I thought that was really cool. And inside they have an exhibit to show you that with the clam shells. It shows you from like when they come from a little bitty egg casing, and then how tiny the shells are. And then they show the progression as they got bigger and bigger and bigger. You can see it. So that's really neat to know that it really was like part of the animal, and then to see how they get recycled by other animals. Like, nature is so cool. So this is a really great place to spend some time and to learn some things. And they also have other programs like the beach walk. When it's hatching time for the sea turtles, they host programs like that. And they just do a lot to restore and protect the local ecosystem. And that's really, really great. Now, about those beaches. I have written posts on the blog about a place called Blowing Rocks, which is in an area called Hope Sound. And that's actually part of Martin County. And I learned about this beach some years ago and decided to make my way there. And what makes this beach so unique is that they are cliffs, like actual cliffs on the coast of the Atlantic Ocean. Okay, they're not like really cliffs, but they look like cliffs, and they're made of what's known as Anastasia rock, which is basically like coquina, or like it's made from shells and fossils and things like that. Usually it's not exposed. It's found, you know, in the ocean, on the ocean floor. But at Blowing Rocks, it happens to be the largest exposed outcropping of this type of rock on the Atlantic coast. And it forms what looks like cliffs. And so I just thought that was so cool. And it gets its name because the way it's situated on the beach, it forms like caves and blowholes. So when the tide comes in, or if the seas are rough, that water rushes in and, you know, comes up through those holes and can blow up to like 50 feet into the air. It'll blow that water. And that's why it's called Blowing Rocks. But I thought Blowing Rocks was like the only one. I had no idea there were so many other places in this area that had the same thing. So my son and I, you know, went to explore on our own after our private tour, and we were told to go check out House of Refuge. Well, House of Refuge is actually a museum dedicated to learning about inventors, and it's right on the beach. But unfortunately, they were already closed for the day. But the beach there had the same kind of Anastasia rock cliffs. I was through the moon. I was so excited to see that. So we went out and just got lots of pictures. The ocean was beautiful because it was like in turquoise color, even though it was kind of cloudy and overcast a little bit. So it was so relaxing, just like watching those waves rush in, taking pictures, looking at these cliffs. And it wasn't crowded at all. Like, there was literally hardly any other people out there with us at this beach. And one of the other cool things just about the Martin County area is that they actually do have 22 miles of beaches. And they like to boast that their beaches are uncrowded because the county has a limit of 4 stories for buildings. So you don't have any of those huge high rises and huge developments like crowding up the place. You know, there's hotels and things like that in the area, but everything's way more spread out so you can go to the beach and go safely. Now, some of the other popular beaches in the area, like if you actually do want to have some place that you can lounge, because let me tell you, those Anastasia rock outcroppings are not comfortable. Like, they're jagged, they're spiky, they're rough. You're going to need to have on some type of shoes because you could definitely injure or cut yourself. It's not a place you're going to like be able to like sit and chill on those cliffs. You'll have to walk a little ways until you're where the actual sand is for you to like sit and lounge. But if you want a beach where you can do that, then you'll want to go to like Stewart Beach, Jensen Beach, and Hope Sound has those kinds of beaches, and they actually do have lifeguards at those beaches. There's also a really cool beach called Bathtub Beach, and this one also has the outcroppings, but they're not as high, and so it forms all of these tidal pools that people like to go and play in, and they call it Bathtub Beach. And that one is just down the road from where we were, from the House of Refuge, and you actually do have a lifeguard at that beach. So what else is there to do in Martin County, Florida? Well, there is tons to do, especially if you're like me and you love nature. Now, I actually have been to the Jonathan Dixon State Park, again, on my trip to Blowing Rock. It's also in Hope Sound, and I stopped through that park. It's a magnificent park, and it's a good size. It's beautiful. They've got boardwalks and trails and kayak rentals. It is one of the nicest of the parks in the Florida State Park system. They also have a place called Alapata Flats Trail that's in Indiantown. There's Indian Riverside Park in Jensen Beach, and then there's also Haupatioki Regional Park in Stewart. I'm sure I butchered that name, but I tried my best. And if you go to the blog post, you'll see how to spell all of these things. So you can look them up. There's also the St. Lucie Inlet Preserve State Park, and that's in Stewart. And that's just a few. They actually have 77 parks in the area. That's right, 77 parks exist in Martin County. And for those 77 parks, that's 100,000 acres of parks and conservation lands. So that is so much space for you to spread out, for you to relax, explore, enjoy nature. 100,000 acres, like that's a lot of land for you to just explore and be one with nature. And I thought that was really cool about this area that I really didn't know. So aside from the nature, the beaches, the parks, what else is there? Well, Stewart is known as the shellfish capital of the world. I mean, that's some title. So if you're an angler and fishing is your jam, this is definitely the place for you. A lot of these communities are right on the water. There's lots of marinas, lots of access to the St. Lucie River, to the Indian River, to the Atlantic Ocean. There's all types of boat charters and fishing charters that you can take and plan. So if you're an angler, if you're a fisherman, this is a great area for you. Also, if you're a diver, there is a famous shipwreck right off the coast near where I was at the Anastasia rock outcroppings at the House of Refuge, and it's called the George's Valentine Shipwreck. They said it's about 100 yards offshore, and it's a shipwreck that you can dive. They also have sailing lessons in the area, which I thought is really neat. And then there's SUP rentals at Zeke Surf and Paddleboard, where you can rent an SUP, which is a stand-up paddleboard. That's not my personal favorite thing to do. As y'all know, I'm a kayak girl, just because I don't have the core strength for the SUP. But if you're into stand-up paddleboard, that's definitely a popular thing to do in the area. And there's so many waterways and places for you to do it. Then you've also got kayak rentals in the area through private outfitters as well as state parks. Now, aside from that, it's just really all these small towns, these small, cute, beachy towns. They're all just really cute to explore. Stewart is so cute. Their downtown has, like your little main street, and it's colorful, and they have street art, and they have this program called Art in Public Spaces with street art and sculptures and things like that. So it's just a really neat area to explore these different little downtowns and things like that. So just the towns themselves are worth checking out. So, are you ready to plan your own Martin County, Florida adventure? Sure you are. To find more information, you can go to discovermartin.com. I'll have that link for you in the show notes. You can also check out my recent blog post where I give you all this information with the links and more details about my experience during my day trip in Martin County. I actually really like that area, and I can't wait to go back. I want to go and spend a couple of days and do some exploring because there's just so much to see and to do. At the time of this recording, yes, we were still in a pandemic, and so we still have to be safe and travel smart. You want to make sure you confirm what the COVID-19 health and safety protocols and guidelines are before you go for any vendors, for any accommodations and tours. The great thing about Martin County is that they are definitely taking this very seriously, and they have an initiative called #MartinTogether, which is their healthy hub, healthy travel hub with COVID-19 information and a directory of local businesses who have all signed the Martin Together Pledge, which indicates that they're following all the best practices that are set forth by the CDC. So that's really great that, they want you to come and they want you to experience their destination as safe as you possibly can. But, do so when you're ready, using your best judgment and being as safe as you possibly can. So thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to my awesome day trip in Martin County. And I hope you're ready to book your trip and explore the Martin County area too. When you're ready to visit, remember, a trip to Martin County is the perfect socially distanced getaway. It offers a diverse range of aquatic adventures, beach escapes, and other entertainment options, from interactive museums to unique animal experiences. This podcast episode was brought to you by Discover Martin of Martin County, Florida. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. And if you did, make sure you subscribe to the Outdoorsy Diva podcast. Be sure to check out Misadventures of an Outdoorsy Diva blog on outdoorsydiva.com. You can also keep up with me and my adventures, so check out all of my social channels. Find Outdoorsy Diva on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest.